Your Next 5 Moves. Master the Art of Business Strategy. Written by Greg Dinkin and Patrick Bet-David. Summarized by Detailed Book Summaries. Leave a comment on what you've learned in this summary. Chapter 1. Know who you are. The foundation of strategic thinking. Imagine you're playing chess against a grandmaster. Every move you make, they're 5 steps ahead. You're reacting. They're planning. That's the difference between average and elite players. Not just in chess, but in business, life, and leadership. That's the punch your next 5 moves delivers right out of the gate. Patrick Bet-David doesn't warm you up gently. He tells you flat out, if you don't know who you are, you can't play the game at the highest level. That's move 1. Everything else collapses without it. Chapter 1 is all about brutal clarity, not the fluffy motivational stuff you scroll past on Instagram. We're talking self-auditing at the deepest level. You want to make strategic moves in life and business? Then start by interrogating your identity. Because the wrong self-image is like trying to win a Formula One race in a go-kart. Doesn't matter how hard you try, you're not in the right vehicle. Patrick Bet-David breaks this chapter down into core questions. Each one slices into your assumptions like a scalpel. First, are you an entrepreneur, an intrapreneur, or an employee? Don't flinch, be honest. Entrepreneurs are the ones building the machine. Entrepreneurs are key players driving growth from inside. Employees keep the engine running. No role is inferior, but pretending to be one when you're wired for another? That's a disaster in disguise. Second, what drives you? Is it solving problems? Leading teams? Creating impact? Money? Status? Freedom? If you don't know what moves you, your decisions will be off target. Your goals won't stick because they're not connected to your identity. Bet-David gets personal here. He shares how growing up as a broke Iranian refugee gave him clarity on his own drive. It was about legacy, security, significance. That clarity shaped every decision he made. And that's what he wants from you. Stop chasing the wrong dreams and start aligning your strategy with your truth. Then comes a deeper challenge. What's your vision for your life? He pushes you to write it out. Not some vague, motivational mission statement. A real, tangible, uncomfortable vision. Where do you want to live? How do you want to spend your days? Who do you want around you? How much money do you need? What kind of impact do you want to make? This isn't just theory. Bet-David gives practical tools here. One exercise involves writing out your life in vivid detail. Ideal day, ideal team, ideal income, ideal business structure. Another tool, define your non-negotiables. The values you refuse to compromise on, no matter the cost. But perhaps the most powerful part of this chapter is when he flips the mirror. What are your weaknesses? Most people run from that. They put on the confidence mask. Bet-David tells you to rip it off. Why? Because real strategy doesn't come from pretending you're someone you're not. It comes from knowing your blind spots and designing your team and life around them. He says, if you're a visionary who can't manage systems, don't fake it. Hire a killer operator. That level of self-awareness can 10x your business overnight. Not because you're doing more, but because you finally stop doing what drains you. There's a recurring theme in this chapter. You can't win at the wrong game. Most people are playing someone else's script. They're chasing titles, copying influencers, living on autopilot. Bet-David wants you to burn that script. The real game starts when you sit down, gut check your motives, and write your own. By the end of chapter 1, the takeaway is sharp and simple. Your first move is self-mastery. Not just in the abstract. Find your passion sense, but through focused questions, honest answers, and strategic alignment. Because if you don't know who you are, your next 5 moves won't matter. You'll be solving the wrong problems, chasing the wrong goals, and missing the board entirely. Chapter 2. Know what you want. The power of clarity and strategy. After confronting the truth of who you are in Chapter 1, Patrick Bet-David shifts the spotlight in Chapter 2 to something just as vital. Knowing exactly what you want. This isn't just about ambition or inspiration. It's about clarity that cuts like a blade. Because if you're not clear, you're wandering. And in business, wandering is fatal. Bet-David wastes no time in pointing out that most people are chasing vague ideas of success. They say they want freedom, wealth, or impact, but can't explain what that means in their own lives. He calls this the illusion of progress. People think they're moving forward, but in reality, they're spinning in circles because they haven't locked in a tangible destination. So he lays down the challenge. Define success in exact, unmissable terms. Don't say, I want to be rich. Say, I want to earn $20 million, sell my company by 45, and retire in a beach house in Portugal. The sharper your vision, the easier it is to cut through the noise and build a plan. The fuzzier your vision, the more you'll stall, overthink, and second guess. To help you get clear, Bet David introduces a core concept: aligning your goals with your true identity and capacity for sacrifice. Want to run a billion-dollar company? That's great. But are you ready to work 90-hour weeks, lead massive teams, deal with lawsuits, and handle relentless pressure? Because ambition without matching commitment is a recipe for burnout. To bring this home, he outlines 4 types of entrepreneurial identity, each with a different appetite and strategic path. The lifestyle entrepreneur wants autonomy. They value time, peace of mind, and freedom over building a huge team or empire. Think digital nomads or consultants who are happy earning 6 figures with minimal stress. The startup entrepreneur lives for creation. They're builders and risk takers. They love the thrill of launching, disrupting, and figuring things out in chaos. The scaler is wired to grow something that already works. They thrive on building systems, managing operations, and turning a small win into a big one. The empire builder wants legacy, power, total market dominance. They're not here to make a living. They're here to make history, and they'll sacrifice anything to do it. Now, here's where things get deep. Bet David pushes you to stop romanticizing someone else's path. If you're a lifestyle entrepreneur at heart, don't beat yourself up for not wanting to manage 500 employees. If you're an empire builder, don't pretend that balance is a real option for you. This is about alignment, not imitation. Once you know who you are and what level you're aiming for, it's time to define the goal like a CEO, not a dreamer. Bet David lays out a tough, practical process called the goal translation method. It starts by asking 5 core questions. What is the exact number you want to hit? Whether it's revenue, profit, user count, followers, or assets, don't be vague. Name the number. What will your business or life look like structurally once you hit that number? Will you have 10 employees or 100? Will you be working 10 hours a week or 70? What kind of team will you need to reach this vision? Are you currently surrounded by B players when you need A players? What systems, software, and infrastructure must be in place to support your vision? And hardest of all, what must you stop doing right now to get closer to that goal? That last question hits like a gut punch. Because most people can tell you what they should do, but they can't name what they should quit. And yet, subtraction is just as powerful as addition. If your habits, clients, or even friends are draining your energy and pulling you off course, that's not friction. It's sabotage. To really drive home the importance of clarity, Bet David explains what he calls a clarity gap. It's the dangerous space between where you are and where you say you want to be. And the only thing that closes that gap is definition. Not hustle, not motivation, just clarity. He puts it plainly. Every day you operate without a clear target is a day you drift. And in business, drifting is death. He illustrates all of this with a personal story. When he decided he wanted to build a massive financial agency, he didn't just write "be successful" on a whiteboard. He wrote down that he wanted over 100,000 agents, a media brand, licensing partnerships, and a publishing arm. That clarity forced him to think differently, to hire differently, to structure differently. He stopped reacting and started engineering. The final message of Chapter 2 is sharp. If you can't clearly articulate your goal in a single sentence that a 10-year-old could understand, then you don't really have a goal. You have a hope, and hope isn't a strategy. So, Bet David challenges you right now to get clear, not later, not someday. Define what you want in painful detail. Because the minute you do, your brain, your strategy, and your team can finally lock in and go all in. Without that, you're building on sand. Chapter 3. Strategize to win. Think 5 moves ahead like a grandmaster. If you want to thrive in business or life, thinking one move at a time won't cut it. In Chapter 3, Patrick Bet David pulls back the curtain on a truth most people don't want to hear. The difference between a struggling entrepreneur and a dominant CEO often boils down to one thing: strategic thinking, not vague planning, not hustle porn, actual strategy, the kind that's as calculated as a chess master anticipating his opponent 5 moves ahead. This is a chapter where Bet David teaches you to play chess, not checkers. He starts with a reality check. Most people are running around playing one-move business. They launch a product, send an email, hire someone, or make a social media post without thinking beyond the immediate outcome. And this is precisely why they get outmaneuvered by sharper competitors who are playing the long game. The world doesn't reward effort. It rewards foresight, the ability to see not just your next step, but the chain reaction your decisions set in motion. Bet David then introduces a model that becomes the backbone of the book, the 5 Moves Framework. It's a mental blueprint for anyone who wants to dominate their space. First move, master knowing yourself. Who are you? What drives you? What are your real limitations and superpowers? Second move, know exactly what you want. Vague goals create vague outcomes. Clarity here defines everything else. Third move, strategize. This is where the game becomes intellectual. You think in sequences, not just actions. Fourth move, build the right team. You can't scale alone. You need A players in the right seats. Fifth move, master power plays. This is where leverage, partnerships, timing, and influence come into play. This chapter focuses entirely on the third move, strategy. Strategic thinking is not a talent. It's a skill you develop. Bet David makes this clear. The best strategists are masters of pattern recognition. They see how today's choices affect tomorrow's positioning. They ask different questions. Instead of what should I do today, they ask, what sequence of moves gets me where I want to go fastest and safest? But you can't be strategic if you're delusional. The first building block of strategy is brutal honesty about yourself, your environment, your competition, and your available resources. Strategy rooted in fantasy leads to disaster. Bet David shares a tool he calls a strategy scorecard, which helps expose weak plans before they sink your business. It forces you to answer hard questions. Are you basing your plan on hope or on current market realities? Have you factored in how competitors will respond? Do you truly know your unfair advantage, and are you leveraging it? What's your downside protection? Have you mapped out plan B, C, and D? He brings this to life with an example. A company built entirely on Facebook ads that neglected to diversify. One algorithm changed, and their entire customer acquisition funnel collapsed. That wasn't a strategy. That was dependence dressed as success. Strategic thinking also means being selective. You don't do everything. You choose the battles worth fighting. Most businesses die from indigestion, not starvation. They try to chase every trend, every client, every idea. Bet David argues that strategy is the courage to say no to the wrong opportunities, so you have the bandwidth to say hell yes to the right ones. Then there's the trap of strategy envy, copying what's working for others without understanding why it works for them. Your context is different. Your team, your capital, your vision, it all needs a custom approach. True strategy fits you like armor, not one size fits all. He also distinguishes between defensive and offensive strategy. Most leaders are constantly on the back foot, responding to problems, reacting to crises, scrambling to meet payroll. But real winners play offense. They shape markets instead of chasing them. They don't just respond to trends. They make them. Playing offense means having a plan, protecting your downside, but also being willing to take smart risks. To build the strategic muscle, Bet David urges you to start thinking in scenarios. What if this deal falls through? What if a competitor drops their price? What if you suddenly double in size? What if a key team member quits? Scenario thinking prevents surprises from killing your momentum. It makes you emotionally and financially anti-fragile. Finally, Bet David reminds us that strategy isn't static. It's a living, breathing part of leadership. You don't strategize once a year during your company retreat. You do it constantly, daily, weekly, quarterly. The terrain shifts, and your mind needs to stay sharp. If you truly want to gain control of your business and life, this chapter drives one point home. Learn to think 5 moves ahead. Be obsessive about cause and effect. Don't just act, anticipate. Don't just hustle, outthink. When you do, you won't just survive, you'll dominate. Chapter 4. Build the right team, because you can't scale alone. No matter how ambitious your vision or how relentless your work ethic, you'll eventually slam into a wall if you try to build your empire alone. Chapter 4 of your next 5 moves makes one thing painfully clear. Scaling isn't about how smart or driven you are. It's about who you surround yourself with. You need a team, but not just any team. You need the right people in the right seats, aligned with your mission, hungry to win, and built for the season your business is in. Patrick Bet-David doesn't sugarcoat it. He makes you ask a hard question up front. Are you building a team for the business you have, or the one you want to build? Because there's a difference. A startup doesn't need a polished executive team. It needs grinders. But a mature company will collapse under the pressure of chaos if it's still operating with a garage band mentality. The first move here is knowing what kind of business you're building and matching your team structure to that vision. Then comes a hard truth about leadership. You don't need clones. You need complements. If you're a visionary but you suck at execution, your next hire better be someone who lives and breathes systems. If you're great at relationships but hate metrics, bring on a numbers junkie. The worst mistake leaders make is hiring people just like themselves. But real scale happens when you bring in the pieces you don't have and let them shine. To help you understand your team better, Bet-David breaks people into 4 types. Leaders. These are your go-to generals. They solve problems, take charge without being told, and bring others along with them. They make things happen and take full ownership of results. Soldiers. Solid, reliable, and loyal. They execute well when given direction and thrive within structure. They're not trying to run the show, but they'll carry the load if led right. Disruptors, innovative and sometimes chaotic. These are the creatives, the risk takers, and the rule breakers. They can shake up stagnant thinking, but must be managed with care. Chameleons, these are the most dangerous. They say all the right things in meetings, they play nice, but they rarely move the needle. They survive by blending in and avoiding accountability. Bet-David urges you to be ruthless in identifying these types, because misplacing just one can slow your entire organization. Promoting the wrong person, keeping a toxic high performer, or ignoring a chameleon who adds no value can cost you time, money, and momentum. And sometimes, it's not even your team that's a bottleneck. It's you. Are you the one getting in the way? Are you micromanaging because you don't trust? Are you hoarding decision-making power out of fear? A real leader empowers. A real leader builds systems that outlive them. Which brings us to a critical reminder. Culture doesn't happen on accident. It's shaped by what you reward, what you tolerate, and, most importantly, what you model. If you allow gossip, low standards, or excuses, you're training your team to play small. But if you reward ownership, initiative, and execution, you're setting the tone for excellence. You can't just talk about culture. You have to live it. So how do you keep the talent pipeline flowing? Stop hiring reactively. Build a recruiting machine. Always be scouting for people with the raw traits that matter. Hunger, coachability, and integrity. Skills can be taught. Mindset cannot. Interview beyond resumes. Dig for patterns. Look for grit and hunger. But people alone don't scale. Systems do. If your company falls apart when one person leaves, you've got a fragile business. Processes, checklists, playbooks, these are what create consistency, especially as you grow. Systems allow you to delegate, monitor, and correct without chaos. Still, even a great team and strong systems will fail. Without one thing, alignment. Everyone must know the mission. Everyone must know what success looks like. The marketing guy, the admin, the CFO, if they're rowing in different directions, the boat spins in circles. Get clear, communicate relentlessly, and make sure everyone knows why they're doing what they're doing. Patrick Bet-David closes this chapter with a gut punch of truth. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, build a team. And that's the 4th move. Build a team that's worthy of your vision and courageous enough to challenge it. Because you weren't meant to carry this mission alone. And if you're serious about scale, you'll stop acting like you are. Chapter 5. Master Power Plays. Learn to play chess, not checkers. Business isn't a game of chance. It's a game of moves. And if you're still making decisions like you're playing checkers while your competition is playing chess, you're going to get eaten alive. In Chapter 5, Patrick Bet-David shifts the focus to the fifth critical move, power plays. This isn't about manipulation or politics. It's about learning how to see the board, anticipate reactions, control outcomes, and play to win. Let's get one thing straight. If you're uncomfortable with the idea of power, you're already at a disadvantage. Because while you're busy being nice or passive, someone else is making the bold move that shifts the game. Power isn't evil. It's a tool. And used right, it lets you protect your people, expand your vision, and defend your values. Patrick explains that most people operate at the reaction level. Something happens, they respond. Someone offends them, they argue. A competitor lowers prices, they panic. That's checkers. Chess is different. In chess, you think multiple moves ahead. You bait traps. You shape the game. You force the other person to respond to you. And that's what power moves do in business. So what are these power moves? They take many forms. Knowing when to walk away from a deal, even if it looks tempting on the surface. Why? Because real power is having options. Changing the rules of the game instead of playing by someone else's script. That's how disruptors flip industries. Controlling your frame in every interaction, whether at a boardroom or a negotiation, the one who controls the emotional tone often controls the outcome, using silence. Sometimes the most powerful move is to say nothing and let others talk themselves into a bad position. Creating leverage. If someone needs you more than you need them, you have power. If you build a brand, an audience, a loyal customer base, you've got leverage. Flipping your perceived weaknesses into strengths. Are you small? That makes you agile. Are you broke? That makes you dangerous. No one sees you coming. Bet-David tells you to start studying game theory, negotiation strategy, and even human psychology. Because in every room you walk into, people are running invisible scripts. Try to assert dominance, avoid risk, gain approval, or cover insecurity. You need to see the script, not just hear the words. And once you can see it, you can either disrupt it or use it. But he also reminds you, power means nothing without purpose. If you're only chasing power for power's sake, you'll end up empty. Power should be used to advance your vision, protect your values, and build something that actually matters. That's how you become dangerous in the best way. Patrick challenges you to stop thinking like a technician and start thinking like a strategist. Technicians focus on their craft. Strategists focus on impact. And the difference between a high-paid employee and a founder who changes an industry isn't talent. It's how many moves ahead they think. Here's the warning. If you don't embrace this kind of thinking, someone else will. You'll end up being played while thinking you're in control. You'll get blindsided by market shifts, competitors, team politics, or even your own blind spots. Power moves are how you regain control. And once you master them, you stop playing defense and start orchestrating the game. So what's the fifth move? It's becoming the kind of person who can see the entire board, not just the next square. It's mastering strategy, not tactics. Because long-term winners don't just survive, they shape the environment, so survival isn't even a question. Chapter 6, The Mindset of Grandmaster. Upgrade your thinking to scale your vision. You can have a brilliant strategy, the perfect product, and even the right team. But if your thinking is weak, emotional, or reactive, you'll burn it all to the ground. In Chapter 6, Patrick Bet-David zooms in on what separates high-level entrepreneurs from those who just dabble. Mindset. And not just any mindset, but the mindset of a grandmaster. Someone who plays long-term, stays calm under pressure, and doesn't crumble when things go sideways. Bet-David doesn't pull punches here. He lays it out. Your business can't grow faster than your thinking. You are the lid, the ceiling. And your success is capped by how well you control your emotions, how clearly you see reality, and how consistently you make decisions under stress. You want to build an empire? You better start building the mental architecture to handle the weight. He breaks down 5 key traits of a grandmaster thinker. Clarity of vision. Grandmasters don't chase shiny objects. They know exactly where they're going, what they're building, and what winning looks like. If you're unclear about your vision, You'll say yes to the wrong opportunities, hire the wrong people, and waste years in distraction. Every decision either brings you closer to your vision or drags you further from it. Emotional control. Emotions are part of the game, but if they control you, you're already out. Grandmasters can take a hit without losing their cool. They pause before reacting. They understand the cost of emotional decisions. When everyone else is panicking, they stay grounded. That's what creates trust and power. Pattern recognition. This is a big one. While amateurs get stuck reacting to every little issue, grandmasters see patterns in markets, in people, in team dynamics. They've seen it before. They learn from history, from mentors, from losses. They can predict what's coming not because they're psychic, but because they've studied the game at a deeper level. Adaptability. Grandmasters adjust. If the game changes, they shift strategies. They're not rigid. They don't cling to ego. If the market flips, they move fast. If they make a mistake, they pivot. It's not about being perfect. It's about being fluid without losing direction. To think like a strategist, Patrick lays out a few core principles. Reverse engineer your vision. Begin at the end. What's your long-term outcome? What kind of company do you want? What lifestyle do you want to live? Only then do you start to plan the steps backward. Most people just start moving without ever defining their destination. Play multi-move chess. Don't just think about what you're doing this week. Ask, what will this move set up for me in 6 months? In 3 years? Great strategy looks like sacrifice now for control later. It's delayed gratification at a leadership level. Anticipate outcomes. If you make this hire, how will it change your culture? If you pursue this market, how will it impact your core product? If you chase this investor, what control will you lose? Thinking strategically means running scenarios before they happen, not reacting when they hit. Adapt, don't drift. A strategy is a living thing. It evolves. But changing course too often means you're not committed. A strategist doesn't chase distractions disguised as opportunities. They adjust their route without abandoning their mission. Protect your energy. You can't think strategically if you're always tired, burned out, or overwhelmed. Patrick emphasizes the importance of creating space to think, reflect, analyze. The best strategic decisions don't come when you're grinding. They come when you're zoomed out, seeing patterns and pulling levers from a higher altitude. He uses the analogy of a general. You can't lead a war from the trenches. Someone has to see the entire battlefield. Terrain, troops, supply lines, enemy positioning. That's your job as the entrepreneur. Your team can be in the trenches. You have to see what's coming next. Patrick also warns against what he calls strategy distraction syndrome, where entrepreneurs switch strategies every time they watch a new video, attend a conference, or scroll through a thread on social media. Strategy isn't something you change on a whim. It's something you design, commit to, and refine with intention. And here's the truth most entrepreneurs hate to admit. The right strategy might take years to bear fruit. That's why you need patience and vision, not just hustle and dopamine hits. The game isn't won with one clever move. It's won by stacking dozens of intelligent moves in a row. To build something legendary, you need to think like a general, not a soldier. You don't just fight the next battle. You plan the whole war. This chapter isn't about giving you a plug-and-play formula. It's about rewiring the way you think. Strategy is what separates great entrepreneurs from good ones, and most never slow down long enough to get strategic. So ask yourself, are you just moving pieces, or are you playing the game to win? Chapter 9, the mindset of a chess master, thinking 5 moves ahead. Patrick Bet-David doesn't mince words in this chapter. If you're running your business like a rookie, reacting to what happens rather than anticipating what's coming, you're not leading. You're surviving. And survival is not a strategy. Chapter 9 is about developing the mindset of a chess master, someone who not only sees the board, but sees 5, 10, 15 moves ahead. It's not about reacting to market trends or mimicking what your competitors are doing. It's about being intentional, precise, and dangerously strategic. That's how you build empires. Patrick lays it out simply. Most people think one move at a time. They hire because they're overwhelmed. They launch because sales are low. They market because everyone else is marketing. That's checkers. Chess players think about the second-order consequences. They ask, if I do this, what will happen next? Who will it affect? What chain of events will this trigger down the line? He explains the power of proactive thinking, not just planning the next task, but visualizing the entire chain reaction. He challenges entrepreneurs to anticipate outcomes, prepare for resistance, and think through multiple contingencies before pulling the trigger on any major move. The question isn't just, what do I do now? It's, what will doing this cause 2 months, 2 years from now? To help entrepreneurs adopt this mindset, Bet David walks through 5 specific moves every business leader needs to master. Not one, not all at once, but 5, stacked in sequence, with each move building toward the next. Move number 1, master knowing yourself. You can't make strategic decisions if you don't know who you are, what you want, and what you're willing to sacrifice. Most people skip this. They try to scale a business that doesn't align with their values, strengths, or long-term desires. That's a recipe for burnout. Move number 2, master the ability to reason. This is about thinking clearly under pressure. Bet David says you need to develop the discipline to pause, process, and choose the best option, not the fastest, not the easiest. Emotional decisions wreck businesses. Rational, data-driven decisions build them. Move number 3, master building the right team. No chess master wins alone. You need a team that challenges you, complements your weaknesses, and shares your vision. But more importantly, you need to know who doesn't belong. Holding on to the wrong people is one of the fastest ways to stall your growth. Move number 4, master strategy to scale. This is where vision meets execution. Patrick emphasizes that strategy is a bridge between goals and actions. It's how you turn a vision into something repeatable and scalable. Without strategy, you're just reacting to problems. Move number 5, master power plays. This is where things get serious. Power plays are the moves that change the game, whether it's raising capital, acquiring a competitor, pivoting your product, or restructuring your business model. These moves require courage, timing, and serious preparation. But when executed well, they can catapult you to a new level of influence and control. Throughout the chapter, Bet David keeps hammering one truth. Success isn't random. It's deliberate orchestration. The people who rise are the ones who treat business like a grandmaster treats chess. They study, they forecast, they plan, and they act with clarity, not desperation. But Patrick isn't just talking theory. He brings real stories from his own business and from the many entrepreneurs he's coached. Stories where a 5-move thinker turned chaos into clarity, and stories where short-term thinkers lost everything because they couldn't zoom out and think ahead. The chapter ends with a powerful call to action. You don't need to predict the future, but you must prepare for multiple versions of it. The more moves you can anticipate, the more you control the outcome. If you're serious about winning in business, don't ask, what's next? Ask, what are my next 5 moves? Chapter 10, build the right team. Stop playing every role. This chapter hits a nerve for every solo hustler and control freak in business. Patrick Bet David pulls no punches when he says, you can't scale a business if you're trying to be the business. Chapter 10 is a full-on intervention for entrepreneurs who haven't yet learned how to build and trust a strong team. Patrick begins by pointing out the obvious but often ignored truth. Your growth is capped by the quality of your people. You might be the visionary. You might be the engine. But you can't be the driver, the mechanic, the marketer, the closer, and the janitor all at once. Not if you're aiming for something massive. He talks about how many founders fall into what he calls the superhero syndrome. They're so used to solving every problem, making every decision, and carrying every weight, they start to believe they're the only ones who can. But what looks like strength is actually weakness. It's a lack of systems, trust, and long-term thinking. Great leaders, Patrick argues, build great teams on purpose, not just with warm bodies or helpers, but with people who are strategically chosen to elevate the whole operation. That starts with clarity. You have to know exactly who you need, based on your vision, your weaknesses, and your gaps. He breaks it down like this. Number 1, identify your role. What are you best at? What drives the most value in your business? Everything else needs to be delegated, outsourced, or eliminated. Number 2, define the key roles your business needs. Not based on your current size, but based on your long-term vision. Ask, if we were doing 10x our revenue, what would the org chart look like? Now reverse engineer that. Number 3, hire for values, not just talent. Skills can be taught. Work ethic, loyalty, alignment with your mission, that's harder to train. Culture is everything. Patrick's rule. If someone is great at what they do but toxic to your environment, they go. Number 4, fire fast when it's not a fit. This one stings for most entrepreneurs, especially the people pleasers. But Patrick is direct. Keeping the wrong person costs you more than firing them ever will. Don't hesitate. Protect the mission. Number 5, invest in your team's growth. You want loyalty? Build it by showing your team that you're as invested in their success as they are in yours. Mentor them. Train them. Give them room to rise. Your business won't outgrow your people. So grow your people. Patrick also introduces the 3 types of employees: soldiers, lieutenants, and generals. Soldiers follow orders. They're dependable. They get the job done. But they need direction. Lieutenants start taking initiative. They see problems and solve them without needing permission. Generals can run entire sections of the business. They think strategically, take full ownership, and act like partners, not just employees. Your job? Identify which roles are needed and fill them accordingly. And if you're lucky enough to find a general, treat them like gold. He also warns against hiring people just like you. Entrepreneurs often gravitate toward clones, people with similar personalities, temperaments, and skills. But that creates a lopsided team. You need complementary minds, builders, finishers, detail-obsessed implementers, conflict-resolving communicators. Every piece of the puzzle matters. The big idea of this chapter? Stop trying to wear every hat. You can't think 5 moves ahead if you're buried in admin, customer service, and email. You need a team that gives you back your most valuable asset, mental bandwidth. Patrick ends a chapter with a challenge. If you disappear for 30 days, would your business still grow? If the answer is no, then you don't have a business. You have a job. And it's time to build something bigger than you.